welcome to Super Bale Sews. My name's Sarah, thanks for joining me today. Welcome to my Nova coat reveal video. So I'm doing this as a collab with the gorgeous Ruan from the Yorkshire Sew Girl. So she has also made a Nova coat and I've seen little bits of it and it looks amazing. So if you haven't already, go and check out her video and see how she got on. It's been a bit of a weird road to me with this coat. So it isn't the first time I've actually made the Nova. It was the first coat I ever made about 2 years ago. I'll pop a picture of it here. So I made it in a boucle and then I lined it with this Lady McElroy cotton lawn. Wore it absolutely loads. It's ended up, it's a bit bedraggled now because it was my go-to coat for dog walking and things. And so it's not as pretty as it once was. But yeah, just a really practical coat that you can throw on. So I wanted to make another one. I was gifted this fabric, which is a boiled wool from Minerva.com. And I knew I wanted to make a Nova, and then Ruan got in touch and said, I'm thinking of making a Nova too. And so we decided to collaborate. Now, what is different between this Nova and my first Nova? First of all, the length. So this one is the shorter length. The first one I made was the longer length. But also, bit of a weird situation. Anyone who's followed for a while will know that currently I'm not living in my own house. We are currently, sorry, the light is going mad in here. We are currently living with my parents whilst we have building work done. And so I've got some of my sewing stuff here and some of it's in storage. And I thought my Nova curve pattern was here, but it turns out it's in storage. So, and then I contacted Papercut Patterns. I sort of explained, I showed them proof of purchase from before and I showed them a picture of me in the coat I'd already made. And unfortunately, they were not able to help, so which is fine. But I ended up managing to get hold of the smaller size band, and this pattern has absolutely loads of ease. So I basically cut out the top size in the smaller size band, and then I graded it up myself. That's fairly easy to do in this pattern because it's a loose, relaxed fit. So it is easier than some other patterns might be. And the fit is pretty similar, to be honest. So yeah, so I just wanted to be upfront about that. And also to say that this one is actually quite an easy one to grade without too much stress, I think. So yeah, that's one thing that makes it different straight away. Now, details of the Nova coat. It's this gorgeous sort of almost cocoon shaped coat. It comes in 2 lengths. The key features are these pockets, which come with these slanted seams. You've got a dropped shoulder. There is no fixtures or fastenings on the front. It is beautifully lined. And if it's mine, it's covered in dog hair because Nala's dog hair gets absolutely everywhere. And then in the back, there are these, the back piece is cut into 3 panels. So there's the center, which is like an inverted V, and then the shoulders sort of then taper down to the waist. So you also have these diagonal seams in the back. So it's a pattern with lots of, it's quite simple in its shape in some ways, but it's got lots of points of interest that elevate it. And it's really having a moment over on Instagram. I've seen loads of Nova coats and actually they all look great. Like I've never seen a Nova coat not look great. So yeah, would recommend. Now, let me talk you a bit more through the process. Generally, the instructions are really good. As I mentioned, there is a lot of ease in this pattern. So when I made it for the first time, I actually ended up sizing down when I did it in the curve size range. With this one, I added, I think I could have fit into the top end of the finished garment measurements, but it would not have had, it would have just like, I'd have been able to get it on, but it would have had no ease. So the fit would have been all wrong. So I added about 4 inches, which for the way I want to wear this jacket, I think is all good. I use this as a really relaxed, so I've got my smart long Vivian coat, which I wear for work and evenings out. I've got my Andy's raincoat that I wear for, you know, going out for walks and stuff. And then my old Nova coat that's now a bit bedraggled is my favourite casual coat. So it's warm, but you can throw it over like jeans or sort of
really casual wear, or you could wear it out to the park or whatever. But it looks kind of contemporary in the silhouette. So that is where I'd say it fits into the wardrobe. Also, if you quite like the idea of making a coat, but you find the whole tailoring thing a bit much, the Nova is the perfect way to maybe get acquainted with working with like a heavier fabric, so a boucle or boiled wool or something like that, but without a lot of the trickier elements that come into play with coat making. Now, the instructions were mostly pretty clear. I thought I got through it quite cleanly, and it was interesting because there were a couple of things which on my first Nova coat I looked at and I was like, I'm sure that's not the right finish, but I just couldn't, at the time I was still quite new to sewing and I couldn't sort of work out what the instructions meant, so I would just make something up and it'd be a bit messy. And this time I definitely did better with regards to that. I think the finishing, I think the inside of it looks much neater. Yeah, I think it's just finished better. So I would say maybe there are a couple of elements which for beginners are quite tricky. The other thing that was quite funny is, I would say the only step that is quite challenging is there are certain parts when you're attaching the lining to the coat that can be a bit confusing. And I thought I'd worked it out. I'd put my coat all together. And then I get this message from Ruan being like, what did you think this step meant? And I said to her, oh, this is what I did, and it seemed to work. And then she pointed out, but what are those tiny little red dashes on that bit of the drawing? And there were these tiny, tiny little red stitch marks marked. But like, I only saw them when I zoomed super in on my phone. So I hadn't spotted them the first time. And so I'd missed, there's basically a bit where you have to, it tells you to sew. So the bottom, let me get this right. It's like you're sewing seam allowance to seam allowance at the hem to stop the folded over hem at the bottom from dipping down. And I just did it at the seam allowances to keep it up. So where the, you know, you have this inverted triangle in the back, centre back piece, I basically sewed it into the seam allowances there where those seams come down. And this little red line that I'd completely missed meant you were actually supposed to sew all the way along. But even after, I was like, but how do you do that without it showing through to the other side? I don't know. But Ruan worked it out. So basically, I thought I'd constructed it properly. And then it turns out that I didn't. But what I did seems to work fine. So no major drama. But I will be interested to watch Ruan's because I need to know what that step was. And maybe it would have been better. Maybe my coat would have been better. It's fine, but maybe it would have been amazing if I'd got that bit right. I don't know. So that was quite funny. So there's obviously, I would have been, if Ruan hadn't pointed out, I'd have had no idea that I'd been confused by that step. But I obviously was. But I've ended up with a coat at the end of it, so it's fine. Yeah, so I don't have loads more to say about this, actually. I think, as I have stated, it's a really fun one to do a fun lining. I will pop some pictures up here if I haven't already, but with both this one and the last one, I used a really bold fun lining, and it is nice for that. And it's got a loose-ish fit, so I've used cotton lawn for both, and they've been fine. The lining for this one, so the main fabric is Minerva, as I've said, a boiled wool, and then the lining is from Sew Me Sunshine. I think it's called Winterberries or something, but very pretty. And a really nice sort of autumn-winter coat, I think. Oh, turned her around. There we go. Just flashing everybody. Yeah, so I think it's a really good first coat pattern. I would take a close look at the finished garment measurements. I think you do for the silhouette want it to be quite oversized, but I think it is really oversized. So yeah, I would say make sure you check the finished garment measurements. There's a bit of leeway because of the dropped shoulder. My sleeves have actually, they're a little bit on the long side, and the way you connect them to the lining means you can't adjust the sleeve length right at the end. So you need to sort of try it on and fold it up and check. Mine just a little bit long. But again, because it's like a cozy slouchy coat, I don't really mind. But yeah, it's a really great pattern. I'm not going to lie. I think it's a really nice pattern. It's mostly pretty clear in its instructions, apart from a couple of steps with attaching the lining. But I think enough people have made this pattern now that you probably can find help from Ruan, if not me, because she got that step right. So yeah, so that's where I'm at with this one. So I hope you've enjoyed the review. Most of you, I'm sure, will know about this pattern anyway, but we just wanted to sort of let you know how we had found it. I think it's always good to see different body types in the same pattern. And yeah, I think this is, normally I wear things that are more like waisted because I like to come in at the waist. But I do sort of like, I feel like it's quite a modern silhouette. I think with the sort of diagonal seams, it particularly gives it, it's like quite a simple shape. But I think it's quite modern, maybe because it's oversized, I don't know. Oh, the one thing I would change, and I'm annoyed because I forgot about it until like the moment I put the coat on when it was finished, which is the pockets. So the pockets are, as I said, inserted into these diagonal seams. Really clever construction. They look really nice. They are not deep enough. So I found with my other coat that if I put my phone in, it would fall out. And that's partly because at the end of where the diagonal seam is lowest, the pocket is obviously not very deep when you get to that point, so it's really easy for things to fall out. Now with this length of jacket, I couldn't make them any deeper because you would see the pocket bags out the bottom of the coat. Well, you wouldn't because they're in the lining, but they would be like bulging at the bottom. But yeah, I think if I make the longer one again, I'm definitely going to try and make some slightly deeper pockets because I just have nightmares of losing my phone on a dog walk. Fortunately, I've made the waterproof coat that has zips on the pocket, so that's not going to happen, guys. But yeah, that's it. As I said, if you haven't watched Ruan's video yet, please do go and look at it and see her beautiful coat. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment down below and I will try and be helpful. I might have to just comment on Ruan's and get her to explain to me the bit that I messed up because, yeah, I don't even know how. I don't know how. Probably not a very good review, am I? Because I'm like, everything was easy. And I just thought it was easy because I didn't notice that I was doing it wrong. Anyway, on that note, have a great weekend and take care of yourselves. And I'll see you next time. All right, bye.